I guarantee you it's a gimmick. It's a marketing and sales gimmick.
Roofing is not recession proof. It is more recession proof than, let's say, probably windows or decks or siding.
If you want to dominate the market, your product cannot be slightly better. It has to be much better than competition.
A flexible roof stands up to hurricanes. A flexible roof stands up to hailstorm. Now, not all hail and not all hurricane, but it's going to stand up better to the elements. It's that simple. You can't argue that.
Welcome back to another episode of Business Hats Podcast. My guest today has worn a lot of business hats in his life. Mike Feazel is a beast in the roofing industry. He's the founder of Roof Maxx. We will talk about anything roofing related, rejuvenation trends in 2023, what's happening in the crazy roofing industry. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Dmitry.
Absolutely. Mike, my first question is, you are pioneer in your space and it's grown. Do you have any data for our listeners to kind of comprehend what are we talking about? Because rejuvenation is not as small as it used to be. It used to be, technology idea. Few people are trying it. Today, it's a growing trend. You have plenty of players on the market. Anywhere I go in a country, feels like there's some kind of rejuvenation or roof cleaning player comes up all over the place. Give me some data to understand how fast is your space is growing.
So I only have our own data, and I do see a lot of players coming into the market, which does excite me. And we can get into that in a bit. But overall, just at our level, we're over now 70 million square feet applied.
Wow.
So, we continue to grow the business. And I really feel that next year, well, we're definitely going to go over 100 million or this year in
Hold on,
23.
7 million squares. I think, is it true that I think the number that I had in mind in my head, I don't know where it's coming from, but that asphalt shingle manufacturers are market is about 150 million squares per year combined. That's what's been installed per year in some previous years at least.
Yeah, the numbers that I hear, and you can get varying data, but I think there's well over 4 million roofs replaced every year in the United States. When are they including churches and commercial structures? I don't know, but there's 75 million roughly single family homes or living units, and 4.5% roughly should be replaced every year. I think more roofs are replaced every year because of the storming side of it. Right. There are the old days of a storming contractor that went from city to city, storm to storm. That model has changed, as you know, quite a bit, to where now most retail roofing contractors, at least east of the Mississippi, doesn't exist out in California. East of the Mississippi today, most retail contractors have a restoration element. Some it's 20%, some it's 50%, some it's more. The contractors that I know, it's anywhere from 30 to 40% of their total revenue is generated by insurance. So
love it.
the model.
On asphalt shingle, so the biggest trend probably would be metal, but again, it's in 2022, 2021, it's changed a lot too because of the supply and demand and all the COVID-19 problems that we have with the metal imports and that industry is disturbed. Before that, I saw the metal was rising, 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 and now the cost of metal is so high. I mean, everything just blew up in the last few years. But you have 8 shingle manufacturers, you have 50 metal companies who are trying to get to the market, and then you have your exotics, your Euroshields, your F waves, and composite tiles. Now, when it comes to your competition, you said that. I mean, you said it with a smile that you like that you have competition and new players, but I know you have some legal battles, and I know it's not a fair competition. What's happening in your talk to me about competition in your space in the rejuvenation world?
Yeah, I mean, if you look collectively across all of the competition, I can't imagine we've not done 10 times more than all of the competitors combined. I don't see that there's real competition yet. That will come. But it excites me to see that that there is competition, right? It shows that there's a demand, there's an appetite for this. and ultimately that's what we want. I feel that competition only brings awareness to this industry, right? To this niche.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more people that see rejuvenation opportunities, it becomes top of mind. And then, there's always going to be leaders. There's always going to be the Cokes and the Pepsis and the 7-Ups. Obviously we started this industry. Our goal is to be Coke. But regardless, it's neat to see that it's caught on in the way that it has. One of the main competitor, Greener Shingles, we were in a lawsuit for 2.5 years with them. We
Wow.
were just awarded by the courts. If you go to greenershinglesLawsuit.com, or just Google Greener Shingle lawsuit, we've put all of the data up there because we were awarded, I think it was just shy of $8 million plus our attorney fees. I think they gave us a few hundred for attorney fees. So it's a little over $8 million. Will
Congrats.
they
That must
ever,
feel good.
I don't like being in court. But when somebody comes in and does things that are so underhanded, then I'm going to battle. And of course, they even and it talks about it in the lawsuit. They destroyed evidence,
Wow.
and the court just threw the book at them.
Wow.
And I don't know if they'll be able to weather the storm. I can tell you that $8 million is a lot of money, and I don't believe that they have but time will tell, right? We're carrying through. We haven't received the money. We are going at it 100%, and I believe that that's going to be a challenge for them. And then you look at Greener Shingles, and they sold their product and let people slap whatever label they want on it. So 95% of the competition in the market today
Comes from
is
Greener.
really a relabeled product
Wow.
that they don't even manufacture.
Is that why you went after them because it was spreading to stop the bleeding, or what was the reason why you went after them?
It's called tortious interference. They were coming after our dealers who have contractual agreements with us and trying to get them to break those contractual agreements, telling half truths and full out lies in cases about what was happening with our business and what we were doing. And again, we were going to defend ourselves, and we have, and the court came back, and
So
and that's a big problem for them.
did you lose some dealers to them?
We lost some dealers to them, not sure how many. We know that there are some. Um, but ultimately, if Greener Shingles goes away, then those people have a challenge. Also, the people that have built a business, you've got to be careful who you hit, as they say, who you hit your wagon to. And if you've built a business that has its own brand, right? It has its own brand, private, because of a private label you've got, what happens then? Okay. They made a lot of claims that weren't accurate, that weren't fair. And so anyway, that's kind of water under the bridge. It is what it is. We're going to see that through. We're in the process of seeing that through. That company's, I believe, out of Canada, so we're dealing with that side of it, but we're not going away, and we will either shut them down or receive the money, and they can move forward and hopefully learn a lesson. Then you have another company in the market, very small, but now all of a sudden I see that, because my dealers, right, they freak out when they see things, and all of a sudden somebody's doing a 6-year warranty. I said, well, look, why don't we just make it 7, and then they can make it 8, and we'll all make it 10, and we'll look like the roofing manufacturers today that are watering down their product and blowing up their warranties and not being honest to the consumer.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about warranties. And I want you to start with exactly what you just did. Why did, in your opinion, asphalt shingle manufacturers switch to 50 years? Because I actually have certainty right now. After me, I did a video. We're a voice of roofing community. We talk common sense. I listen to roofers, and I did a video about what roofing
Yep.
manufacturers will not tell you, and I call out, like shortages and what they did. And right now, my lawyers is talking to certainty, and they're coming after me. I was like, guys, give me a break. I've never installed your product. I don't think you're bad guys, but I'm gonna call out bullshit when I see it, and they don't like it. But why, like in certainty, you're one of them. Your product will not last 50 years, and take it to the bank. I guarantee you, it's a gimmick. It's a marketing and sales gimmick. it's not reasonable expectation. It would be the same as putting 1 million miles warranty, on a car. Yes, cars like Hondas and Toyotas, they might get to 1 million miles, but how many will? If
Yeah.
you have a roof in California where it doesn't rain, like maybe it'll last 50 years, but that's not a reasonable expectation. Why did you go from 30 years to 50 years? What's your take on the whole thing? Why did they do it?
So let me show you something first. I want to pull up an image that I think everybody needs to see. This is awesome. I know you get a lot of views. So this was brought to us from one of our dealers, and the customer happened to have shingles from when the roof was installed in the early 2000s. They had to have some repairs done, or maybe it was an addition on the home. I don't remember, but that's my dealer's hand, right? He pulled out both bundles, laid them side by side, snapped a shot, and put it into our certified dealers group. This is what shingles looked like in the early 2000s. I remember when I started in this business, the weight of a shingle was stamped on the shingle. And this was not just the organic shingles. By the 80s, organic shingles were dying out.
Mm-hmm.
So they've been fiberglass for a long time, and certainly by the 2000s. But it used to be 4 bundles to the roofing square for a 30-year architectural shingle. And then, and of course, the bottom is today's shingles, about a third less, right? And as you know, the shingle weights used to be 320. Now they're 220, 230, 240, whatever. And I'm talking baseline architectural.
I,
3
I,
tabs are kind of the
I,
thing
I-
at the
I've
back.
seen shingles 190, and I'm talking them like big brand, like 190.
Architectural,
Yes,
architectural.
yes.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. So asphalt is the component that allows the shingle to contract and expand, to adhere to the granules, to remain flexible. A flexible roof is a waterproof roof. A flexible roof stands up to hurricanes. A flexible roof stands up to hailstorm. Now, not all hail, not all hurricane, but it's going to stand up better to the elements. It's that simple. You can't argue that.
Yep.
Unless you're going with wood shake, or you're going with metal, or you're going with slate. But with asphalt shingles, it's all about the asphalt. And there's very little in them today. And again, I have no problem with the manufacturers if they just call it for what it is and call it a 15 or a 20 or even a 25. But I don't even think 25 at this point.
So you think they should go back from 30 to 20 versus up?
Well, I mean, they went from 30 to 40 and 40 to 50 and whatever lifetime means.
I mean, most of them went from 30 to 50, skipping 40.
Well, yeah, others went from 30. Some of the original ones that started this went from 30 to 40 and then 40 to 50. Others skipped because they didn't do the 40. This went straight to the 50. It was when one manufacturer went down the path, everybody else had to jump on it. And I think I've told you this story. I don't want to be in lawsuits. I'm not going to battle with manufacturers.
Sure.
And I've also said, I don't think that currently who runs the industry overall, the C-suite, if you will, they're inheriting something that has come along, or maybe they were in the industry, but lower down the food chain, and they've worked their way into the C-suite. I know a lot of people in the roofing industry on the manufacturer side, as well as contractors, and there's a lot of great people.
Of course.
It's never as simple as they're bad, we're good. It's just not that easy, right? But there was a manufacturer, a smaller manufacturer that was having a lot of problems. And I remember, I think it was the early 2000s. And this manufacturer came into the market and they had a 25-year architectural to compete with a major manufacturer's 25-year architectural. They rewrapped that 25 and called it a 30. And the entire Columbus market, Columbus, Ohio, shifted because now there were companies selling a 30-year product against your 25. It's all marketing, right? And so everybody jumped ship, and it wasn't very long before the other manufacturer that had the 25-year architectural, right? Then you saw the game. That's when the game started over the next, I don't know.
But they did. Unfortunately, it did not stop there, because now they call it lifetime, and now we have other crazy marketing promises. So it's a marketing game versus quality game. You know the saying, there's no school for roofers. There's no roofing school. Well, it's actually not true. There is a roofing school, and it has been around for years, for a couple of years to be exact. It's online school for roofers, roofing-school.com. Roofing School helps roofers become better business owners because roofing business is not about roofing trade. You might be really good at installing shingles on top of the roof. It's good for you that you're not afraid of heights, that you're willing to work long hours, but that's not going to make you successful. Unfortunately, we respect the trade, we respect the workers, the crew, the installers, but those installers often fail when they don't know their numbers, when they don't understand the process, when they don't know how to present themselves and how to compete with the salespeople in the roofing industry. That's what roofing school is all about. I highly recommend roofing school. I started it a couple of years ago, but I'm not the only teacher. Inside roofing school, you will find a lot of content from companies that we travel to. We travel to over 100 companies, and we also have other teachers like Ben Minchaka, who passed away last year. Becca Switzer will teach you recruiting, and few others amazing speakers and trainers who will help you understand how to be successful in this game we call business. Because doesn't matter how good you are with your hands, with your hammer, how fast you install those shingles, if you don't understand accounting, if you don't understand sales, administration, you will for sure fail and become part of the statistics. Our goal is to help as many roofers to become successful contractors as possible. We already graduated over 300. It's online school. It's very affordable. Starts at just $49 for all content. We will help you with the forms, contracts, and at higher packages at $399 a month, we will create marketing materials for you. Unlimited graphic design will help you with flyers, vehicle wraps, yard signs, anything you need to be successful at the sale, at the door, and in your office. Sign up for roofing school today, and I will see you inside.
Well, it is, but Dmitry, at the time when they rewrapped this, mind you, these were 320-pound, 30-year architectural shingles. It was stamped on the bundle, 80 pounds a bundle. I carried them up. I've carried thousands of
Yeah.
bundles up and down ladders. They used to not put them on the roof. You used to actually have to put them up yourself or have your own lativator. So I carried the shingles. It was stamped on the bundles. But now that product isn't even 320.
But they
It's
say it's better technology. That's their argument.
well,
And they
here's my
and
question. Here's my question. So if that is true, why is it in Florida? You know, the insurance industry operates based on data and numbers. It's very, very simple. And the insurance industry tried to push it down to 10 years on required replacements in Florida, where it had been 15 years. And you know, when granules start to shed off of a roof, it's because enough of the oil has evaporated that roof now undergoes stress during contraction and expansion. And the granules shed off and more asphalt is exposed and that snowball effect. So to say that it's okay that granules will start to shed off at year 5 in Florida or year 7 or 8 in Ohio is ridiculous, because that's why these shingles are getting damaged by small hail. It's why they're getting damaged by category 1s and not category 3s. And then again, that's the manufacturer side. And now you have the contractor side, where contractors, and I'm not beating up on contractors. I'm a contractor. And I've got friends that they have the retail element of their replacement of their retail business. They have the restoration element to their retail business, because that's what the market is right now. How do you do anything different than what all your competitors are doing? But I mean, I'm seeing markets that are working thunderstorms. They're working thunderstorms. They're not working hurricanes. They're not working hailstorms. They're working thunderstorms. So when a thunderstorm hits on the west side of town, the next morning, everybody's running around because there's trees down or branches down, right? And hey, a bunch of damage came through. I can get you a free roof. And there's different levels of that, right? And there's a lot of great companies, and it's just, we're in an awkward time in the roofing industry, and there is opportunity, and we saw it. We want it out of the one side. we sold our business and we jumped to the other side, and now we've created this new thing, rejuvenation, and that's why we did it. I don't want to start beating up on contractors. It's a tough business. We provide an amazing service for the community, and there's always going to be varying levels of corruption that happens at the manufacturing level, at the contractor level, in all things,
Supplier
right?
level.
Yeah, it's in all things. It's in all things. So, but
What
I just would like to see the industry call it for what it is, right? Call the product what it is, so that the consumer can make an educated decision. If I buy a Florida and I think it's a 50-year product or a lifetime product, and I'm down in Florida, and that contractor tells me, that sales rep tells me, oh, probably not going to get lifetime, Mr. Smith, but you can probably get a good 40 years out of it. But yet in 15, the insurance company is going to require them to replace it. That consumer could have decided to pay more money for a
exactly?
metal roof, right? So let me make educated buying decisions. And that's my challenge with what I see happening in the roofing industry. And I'll tell you, it's why a couple of the manufacturers, I believe, have quit talking to me, but I'm not going to stop talking about this stuff. I'm not battling them. They have to battle themselves. It's their own battle, not mine.
I agree.
But
And
I'm
then,
not going to not speak the truth as you do.
unfortunately, what I see is they're in it together. They like even this certainty letter to us. I'm thinking, why this manufacturer? Because I call out all manufacturers in one video, all 8 of them, and one of them sent something to me. And the way I've seen it in the past, they always do that. Like they always increase their prices within like 24 hours, right? They always raise the warranties like immediately. If one does something, and instead of trying to do something different, like I love what Elon Musk says: if you want to dominate the market, your product cannot be slightly better; it has to be much better than competition. So instead of going to the board, and few of them did, like if you look at Atlas or ICO, their shingles is heavier, bigger, true square. They have consistent. We have manufacturers today, like for example, Ica Dynasty and Orange Screening Duration. One is true square, one is heavier, one is you get exactly 22, I think, pieces in each bundle, and one, some bundles are 20, some 22, some 21. Like it's not fair head-to-head comparison. Like one is definitely better, but no one wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to. I mean, it's slightly better. It's not like ICO is 10 times better, and ICO still have to compete with OC, on a local and distribution level, on a warranty level, and all of that stuff. But
Yeah.
I feel like they are in it together, and no one is willing to do what's right because it will expose others, and they will gonna become an enemy. I mean, I'm the enemy for speaking the truth.
Well, one of my partners is an attorney. One of the reasons that we won that lawsuit, and we had a great law firm out of Columbus, Ohio as well. And the truth always prevails. But one of the things that we've talked about, and I told you I spoke with one of the major manufacturers very early on. It's been a few years ago. And my conversation with this gentleman, was exactly the conversation I'm having with you. And I said, I'm not sure why you're here. I don't know how there can be a relationship. And he gave me some BS story of, well, we were doing research on maintenance for roofing, right? Whatever it was. But I realized that, he was only there to get information. And I said, I'd love a partnership with the roofing industry. I would love to see all roofing contractors offer rejuvenation. It's the right thing for the consumer, period. If it works, and it does, we've proven this now, right? We've, like you said, over 70 million square feet. We've got stories out of Fort Myers where the hurricane came in, where, there's videos we're constantly putting out, right? We're documenting these stories. Not to mention some of our dealers are large roofing contractors, right? And they know what's happened in the industry. Anybody who's been in this industry for more than 20 years understands what's happened in the roofing industry. The problem is there's a lot that have only been here for 5 or 10, and that's okay.
What's your prediction for the next 10 years? Last 10 years were game-changing years. What will happen next 10 years? Do you see decline of asphalt, or do you see any major changes in the asphalt world?
I hear talk. I don't know how accurate it is, it's mostly talk, but I do believe that they are going to phase out the asphalt shingle. Quite possibly. I think it's one of the reasons the manufacturers are in the situation they're in. When the coker was installed at the oil refineries, it's $1 billion piece of equipment back in the early 2000s. It reduced the amount of available asphalt into the market, right? The byproduct of refining oil is asphalt. And I think it was roughly 5%. And when they installed the coker, it took it down. I don't know the numbers, but let's say to 3%, or make the math easy, to 2.5%. Well, there was only half as much, or there was a hell of a lot less available asphalt in the market. And because of that, and the more quality asphalt, I would have to assume, is being pushed into road construction. Roads are much more expensive than roofs. Governments are buying them, right? Paying for it. Mm-hmm. Municipalities. So it just makes sense to me that that's where the direction of the asphalt went. And the manufacturers put in a situation, and if they were wonderful, what I mean by that, that's fine, right? That's just life. But tell it the way it is. Don't play games. And they've played games. And again, if the only game they've played was the warranty game, they played the wrong game. And if they went out and they thought that this new technology was going to operate better, now mind you, when they say new technology, it's still fiberglass. It's still ceramic granules, mainly made by 3M, and it's asphalt. Well, now it's asphalt with a lot of crushed limestone in it. And the crushed limestone is why we're having such a problem with algae that we didn't have. Algae was an issue in Florida. Algae was an issue in Atlanta, in southern markets, high humidity. Algae wasn't, globocapsa black streaking, right? Mm-hmm. Was not a problem in Ohio in the early part of my roofing career. And now you see homes that are built, developments that are 5 years old with black streaks on them. My sister lives in a development, I think 7, 8 years old, black streaks all over the place. Hmm. That's an indication of the amount of crushed limestone that's in that asphalt.
What's the best solution for that?
We should almost say the amount of asphalt in the crushed limestone, because it seems to be there's maybe more crushed limestone. I don't know. What I'm sorry?
What's the best solution for that? How to, your sister's neighborhood, 7-year-old neighborhood, with that, how would you fix that?
Well, so there are ways to clean. So we have a Generation 2 patent, which is in testing right now. And it is to not just rejuvenate the shingle, but to also remove the black streaking. It was very difficult to get that completed because we wanted to stay within USDA biopreferred. We didn't want harsh chemicals. We wanted to keep our product kind of plant-based, if you will. So short term, right now, the solution is a product called spray and forget or wet and forget. The manufacturers, and I don't have a lot of information on this, but I do know the manufacturers do approve bleach or soft washing.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you about it.
I was told by Battelle, well, the lead scientist at Battelle, who helped us with the Generation 2 patent that we have, which is a new patent that was released a couple of years ago, that bleach has salts and will dry the oil out. Right. So, and I'm not saying that is the case. That was what he told me. So take it for what it is. I've read things that are similar. But it does clean that roof immediately. It's immediate results. Spray and forget, when you spray it on, it can take 6 months to a year for that roof to come clean. If it took 10 years to get dirty, 5 years, 10 years, whatever, to get dirty, spray the stuff on and let Mother Nature rinse it off. Right? It's going to take you 6 months for a year for the roof to come clean again. Great. It's one of the reasons with our Generation 2 patent, and we worked so hard on it, because we knew the rejuvenation piece worked, but a lot of people want to see that roof look better.
Let me ask you this. Can you use bleach to clean it off immediately and then apply Roof Maxx treatment?
Yes, we do have. So we do have some dealers that do soft wash cleaning. And soft wash is, it's a good process. I mean, it's an effective process. So once the roof dries out, then you can come in and treat with Roof Maxx, and we do have dealers that do that. So that's for sure. And we've got a number of our dealers do roof cleaning. Some do soft wash. Some are doing I forget the name of the product, but it's more of like it's kind of a dealer model, a franchise model. Others do spray and forget or wet and forget. And many of our dealers just say, I don't want to mess with cleaning. So, they're independent. They do what they want to do. But once our generation 2 product is out, that's going to make a difference. And we're seeing good results from the testing that's out there. We have it in multiple markets, but, we want to go slow to market with things and make sure that, I'm not quick to make big decisions. We just want to continue to grow this industry, keep integrity with it, maintain the integrity so that rejuvenation is something people can believe in. We really have made big strides with this industry when I start having conversations, early conversations with Fortune 50 companies. And I'm not talking about companies to buy us, I'm talking about companies to partner with us, right? To partner with us. Talking about HUD and government, right? Starting many early conversations around all these things, but they're still sitting back and going, hey, 70 million square feet. This is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the industry, of the entire industry.
Sure.
But we are making great strides forward.
Let me ask you about that. Let me ask you about, you mentioned HUD, a government. What kind of paperwork do you guys provide? Like if I clean the roof, what are the benefits on paper? Not just a marketing promise. I mean, 5 years sounds great, but what do I get? Is there a benefit for insurance company that something that I can show, hey, here's a certificate that this roof is fine for the next 5 years. You don't have to replace it.
So are we talking about rejuvenation or cleaning?
A rejuvenation.
So with rejuvenation in Florida, and we have a video out there where a gentleman, his insurance was actually canceled. Now, we don't guarantee if you treat with Roof Maxx, you're going to get your insurance reinstated. But he ended up working his way up into the C-suite. Actually, the gentleman, he says it in the video, the gentleman that came on the phone, and it was, again, C-suite. And the person said, I'm not sure how you got me, but I'm glad that you did. And this was after our customer said, hey, I have my roof treated with Roof Maxx. And then that gentleman looked into it and got back to them. And he said, we're very aware about what Roof Maxx is, and we do believe in the product. I'm going to reinstate your insurance. Now, did that company make a blanket statement? Anybody that treats, no, it was a one-off situation. We are seeing, because of a new law in Florida, instead of being replaced at 15 years, it's now, instead of age of roof, it's gone to condition of roof. So we have hundreds of customers down there that are treating with Roof Maxx. And when they treat with Roof Maxx, they get a roof cert from an inspector that says this roof has 5 years of more remaining life. As a matter of fact, I did the original Roof Maxx challenge back in 19 down in Florida. We just did another one across the street for a home inspector. He's the head of the Wing Inspection Network, hundreds of inspectors across Florida. He's a certified home inspector. And back in 19, when we treated his roof, because he didn't want to inspect a roof he was buying. So he was buying, he had an inspector go in, and that inspector said that roof needs replaced. He heard about Roof Maxx. My local dealer connected with us, and he said, let's do the Roof Maxx challenge. So we did. That roof stood up to Hurricane Ian that came through. Now, this is in Sebring, Florida. It was a Cat 3. But that was a roof 4 years ago, that should have been replaced. At the time, it was brittle, and now it didn't. And we went and treated a new home that he bought across the street. And there's a video on our YouTube channel that's out there talking about the whole story. And he's become a big fan of Roof Maxx, as a lot of home inspectors are. That early on were extremely skeptical, as everybody should be. Right, got to be skeptical. But again, we're in the market long enough now, where enough of these stories, and again, we don't sell our product as put it on so you don't get hurricane damage, put it on so you don't get hail damage. We say put it on because it's a maintenance product, and if you keep that shingle flexible, saturated with oil, and malleable, that roof's going to last longer, and it's going to stand up to heavier weather. It's just that simple. No magic. And we don't try to sell it as anything other than what it is, a maintenance product.
Love it. I want to get back a little bit to manufacturers, not to beat too much on them, not to beat the dead horse, but recently I was interviewed by Business Insider and they asked me a question: who is responsible for recycling problem? Who should fix it? And I want to ask that question to you, but I want to give you a little context. I just came back from Hawaii, and there's a roofing contractor in Hawaii that has like 40 million plus a year, and they have a huge problem. Imagine Hawaii, right? Like in the middle of nowhere. So they're telling them that the landfill is full. They cannot take anymore. It costs them about $400 per load to dump it at that landfill. It's the only one place on Honolulu, and they have manufacturers. So hypocrisy is to the fullest here because manufacturers telling everyone they're green, they're investing millions of dollars in technology, and they're going to fix the problem now. This contractor, this poor guy who runs $40 million operation, who buys asphalt shingles, literally don't know where to dump them and about to hit the wall, because when they close that place, that last place, and they say that within next year they're going to shut it down, when what he's going to do. So I think the manufacturers who deliver the shingles, tons and tons and tons to the island, should think about what goes out, especially when you advertise it. Do you think that they're not investing in that technology and recycling because they know they're not going to be in business in 10 years, because they see the end of it and they shift in direction? Because manufacturers they have billions and billions, they can fix this problem. Technology is there, but they're not working with the contractors on the solution.
So I think things come down to economics.
True.
And I think we talked about this in an interview a year and a half ago. So I do feel that the government should step in if it's
Government.
becoming that big of a problem, especially local government, right? In the state, in the case for Hawaii, Honolulu. If it was profitable, then it takes care, business takes care of itself. Business solves things, right? We're creative. I saw the challenge. My brother and I saw the challenge in the roofing industry, and now there's roof rejuvenation. And if there was an opportunity in recycling shingles, somebody will figure out a solution, a profitable solution. Now, in the meantime, if it's becoming such a big challenge, then there needs to be subsidy from government. And I'm not a big government person, right? I'm a kind of a more of a libertarian. And I'm not on either side of the aisle. I'm more common sense lies, sometimes left, sometimes right. But sometimes government has to step in and figure out a solution. And so if there was a subsidy that was put into recycling, at some point, if the subsidy is big enough, the profit margin becomes big enough, and then people start to invest their dollars and build businesses around it to solve those problems, to create those solutions. And I just think that's what's going to ultimately happen. But in the case of Hawaii, look, the local government's going to have to figure something out. And it might be $1,000 to have that stuff put on a barge and sent back to the States.
It's probably will be
taken to a landfill. And who's going to pay for that? It's going to be the consumer.
Absolutely.
Everything always goes back to the consumer.
100%. 100%. You mentioned earlier that some roofers are skeptical, would not touch roof cleaning and stuff. But also a lot of people are skeptical about roof rejuvenation. I'm reading my comments, even on the videos we made with you guys. When we first aired the story, when you go to comments, the roofers are very old school. I've done it for 20 years. Why would I change it? Oh no, this doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. What do you tell people in the roofing industry who are skeptics? I'm talking about roofers, business owners who would not invest in it. Like, how do you overcome those objections?
Get your roof treated and see. It's kind of hard to refute the evidence that's out there if you go watch our videos that rejuvenation doesn't work. This isn't a year old, right? We're 70 million square feet. It works. We're in talks with one of the two big box stores, not to put the product in at the box level, right, for a retail, but to actually set up booths within the store as an installed services. Wow. I don't think they've done due diligence, right? We're in conversations with Livcore, and Livcore is the largest multifamily REIT in the country, owned by Blackstone, not BlackRock, Blackstone, and they're working through one of the largest roof management companies, which is called Roof Management, out of Marysville, Ohio. And they've all done their due diligence. So it's not so much about that. Here's one of the things, and for those who are truly skeptical, it's not necessary, right? It's been proven. So, and it's not me saying it, that the data's out there. But for most roofing contractors, and at least 70, and I have some of my contractor friends that tell me, no, it's probably more like 80, 90. Now, most of my contractor friends are old, like me, old school roofers, been doing it since the 80s. John Beal Roofing, $40-50 million company out of St. Louis, the biggest roofer in St. Louis, one of the bigger in the country. Still an old retail guy, does some storm work because he needs to, because that exists in his market. Full repair service market. Department. And he's not going out and charging $3,000 for a plumbing boot to push you towards a new roof. He has to make profit. You can't do it for $150, I understand, but he's doing what's right by the customer. And today, 70%, probably even 80% of contractors, some say as much as 90% of contractors don't offer the service department. They don't tell you that. They want to repair the roof, and or they want to replace the roof. They don't want to repair it. It's kind of that simple.
Why don't you partner with the asphalt shingle manufacturer? Is it conflict of interest, or they would be open to some kind of bigger liability if they offer? Because it would make perfect sense for the consumer if they have it, but I guess they really can't because of those warranties we mentioned, doesn't it?
So that is the concern, I believe. Doesn't mean that it's accurate. That's been, we've had discussions with my partner, as I said, as an attorney, and also with just in general discussions with the law firm we work with. They think that their exposure is too great. If they talk about a product that should be sprayed on it 7 to 10 years, depending on the region, that would put them in, give them massive exposure.
For class actions?
It could be class actions, all kinds of things, yeah.
Because they're selling 30-year product, but now they're selling
a 50-year product. And even if they were selling a 30-year product, why would you spray on a 30-year product that's 7 to 10 years? And if the manufacturer was a partner in that, they're kind of admitting that their product is faulty.
Love it.
And and that's the speculation. I have no idea, but that from a logical, that's the only logic that ways that lines up with me. I've had conversations with 2 shingle manufacturers, and both disappeared. But again, as you see, I'm not I'm not trying to do a deal.
Sure.
There's a deal that makes sense and wins for the consumer and works for my business and works for that manufacturer. Awesome. And if it doesn't, I'm going to continue doing what I'm going to do, and they're going to have to continue doing whatever it is that they've got to do. But ultimately, I'm only focused on one thing, and that's the consumer. And if I do that, I win. And if I don't, I think I ultimately lose.
Got it.
I don't think they're doing that right now, and I think that's the challenge in the roofing industry.
Okay, 2023. What's your predictions? Not predictions. Where do you see the trends are right now? What's changing? Do you believe that we're going to go on inflation and it's going to affect roofers? We're going to have slow year. Do you think that we're recession-proof? Or we're not recession-proof? What's happening right now on the trends?
Roofing is not recession-proof. It is more recession-proof than, let's say, probably windows or decks or siding. Mm-hmm. But during a recession, and I've been in the business now 35 years, so I've seen a few recessions. And definitely in a downturn, people are more apt to hold off, right, until they feel better about the situation. Not to mention, if you had $1 million in equities and now you've got, make the math easy, 500,000, there's a thing called the wealth effect. So I'm not as comfortable to spend money. Actually, for us in rejuvenation, as an economy weakens, we strengthen. People will take more of a risk. I mean, there's kind of a couple things happening, right? The product's been out longer, and people will take bigger risks, because the other option is go spend $15,000, $20,000. Roofing is ridiculous at this point. And it's not going to go south. It's going to continue going north. But I think we are going into a deep recession. I think that inflation hopefully will take care of itself. And you're seeing that with some of, lumber, for example. So I think we'll be okay there, at least for the time being. Depends on if once government flips on the printing press again, right? We're in quantitative tightening, not quantitative easing, which is basically a fancy word for printing money. So that's why interest rates are going up. They may have to take them all the way up to 18, 19% like Volcker did back in the 70s to stop this. And the question is, do the politicians have the appetite for that? And we'll see. But life goes on. I think roofing is a great industry to be in, whether it's rejuvenation or replacement. I would love to see them kind of become together, but I think that the replacement industry, there's so much restoration element to it that people are focused on $15,000 and $20,000 tickets, not on a $3,300 rejuvenation job. And that's okay, right? But that's not going to stop us from doing what we're doing. The majority of our dealers are not contractors. The majority are business seekers, business opportunity seekers, and they wanted to find a good business model.
Got it.
And
your advice to small contractors in 2023, someone who's just getting started, first, second year in business, never done more than $1 million.
First or second year in business, operate smart, pay attention to the bottom line. Revenue is driven by ego. Volume is driven by ego. You've seen it 1,000 times. I watch your videos, guys going out of business. So volume is driven by ego, and profit is driven by sanity. And when you stand around a group of contractors that are all talking about their revenue, I know that they don't make any money. Because somebody who makes money is not going to stand around and have that conversation. They're going to exit that conversation because they don't give a shit. Because they know that profit is where sanity lies. And in the industry, there's too much puffery around revenue. And who cares? If you want to service the customer, you better make some really solid profit, or you're going to have to hire subpar labor and give subpar service and not be able to take care of your customers. And again, everything always points back to the consumer. And if you take care of the customer, everything will take care of itself. So grow slow and don't take big risks. I think in today's world, you can work out of your home and do up to $1 million, $1.5 million. A good friend of mine, he used to be my production manager years ago at Feazel. I think he did over $4 million last year. He runs it. He took his garage and turned it into his office. He's got a couple people working there. He's been very smart with his overhead and the structure of his company. He sees the restoration side disappearing and the insurance companies being tougher. Can I make a real quick prediction of what I see happening over the next 5 years with the insurance industry?
Sure, please.
Picture a semi pulling into a town after a hurricane or a hailstorm. And that semi opens up and thousands of drones fly across that market. You see them in the sky now doing different shows and stuff, right? So the technology is already there. And it just scans the entire market, sucks up that data, turns them into a bunch of Xactimates, right? All the data you need: roofing, siding, gutters, windows. It's identifying that damage. They already can identify hail hits. And there'll be big companies that do that. And then the insurance companies come in and buy that data, and there's no more adjuster on exterior. The reason that the insurance industry has had such a tough time is because of the independent adjuster. Every restoration contractor knows that when the company adjuster shows up, it's hard to get it bought. And when the independent adjuster, now I'm not knocking independent adjusters either, a lot of great ones, but when there's 3 shingles missing and a roof gets bought, that's a problem, right? In my opinion. And I'm not saying the insurance industry is perfect either. They've got all of their problems. I've a lot of stories and frustration around that industry, but hey, nothing's perfect.
Great,
I believe
great prediction.
I think that when that happens, you're going to see literally within a few year period, you're going to see the restoration contractors are going to have so if your business is only focused on restoration and that's where most of your revenues and your profits are derived from, you're going to have a real challenge, because that's what I think is going to come. And whether it's the insurance industry has their own people going out and doing it, or they just have one big mega company that's coming in and sweeping, like an eagle view, right? Who knows? But technology is moving that way. Look at ChatGPT. It's changing the world quickly. Went from 0 to $30 billion overnight. So we live in a different era.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Your advice to big players, market leaders, your Apple Roofings, your huge companies, 40 million, 50 million plus.
Yeah. Have a service department, not just for apartments and condos so that you can go get the big business, but for the Mr. and Mrs. Consumer. If you're allowing your reps, and back in the day, sales reps were roofers. And I even switched away from that as I grew my model and we grew our company. And it became more salespeople were better salespeople because roofers weren't great salespeople. But a lot of these salespeople are out there selling roofs that a cracked plumbing boot, right? The rubber gasket,
Yep.
leak in the bathroom, 12-year-old roof, black streaks. They bought the home. They don't know the age of the roof. And it's time to replace the roof. Rodney Webb, and one of the things I love about him, he's going to say, go in there and do the repair and make profit on that repair because you have to be profitable. But it's a headache to build a profitable service-based roofing company because there's so few quality technicians out there because the industry has so much challenge, right? The labor shortage. But if you can do it and do it right, you can take care of those customers. And then you look, and I don't know Apple Roofing's model, but I really respect what they've done. And man, for them to do what they did in Lincoln, Nebraska, blows me away. The size of, that's market dominance.
Love it.
They're
Yes.
the most dominant market based on population in the country. So I would say have a really solid service department to take care of the customers and educate your salespeople on what, on what needs to be replaced and what doesn't. Because look, I don't care which side of the green fence you sit on, and I don't care if you're left or right, taking debris and dumping it in landfills, taking financial resources from Mr. and Mrs. Smith, right? And just, it's not sustainable. None of this stuff is sustainable, and it's not fair. And it would piss you off if it happened to your mother, and it would certainly piss me off if it happened to mine. And it's not the right thing to do. So not that I'm Mr. Perfect and Mr. Ethical all the time, right? I have to make tough decisions, and sometimes you're on a fence of should I do this or should I not do this? But when you're blatantly taking advantage of customers and you kind of turn a blind eye to it because you just know it's up to your rep to make that decision, but you didn't educate that rep, or you don't give them a tool like Rodney Webb offers to go out and make enough money on the repair where you can have a service department and then you get the replacement down the road. And hey, maybe interject rejuvenation in there, whether it's Roof Maxx or other, right? Because I think that is a necessity in today's world of roofing. And I believe within a decade, half of the market is going to have their roof rejuvenated at least once before they tear that roof off and put it in the landfill. And if that happens, that's an $8 to $10 billion rejuvenation industry on top line revenue retail. It's a massive opportunity for any contractor who really focuses on their customer. Doesn't say it, doesn't talk it, walks it.
Love it.
And there's fewer of those today than ever before.
Michael, great advice, great observation, great predictions. Thank you so much for your time. I know you gotta go. Guys, comment below if you have any questions. If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe, like if we brought any value to you. I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Don't beat up on me too bad, Dmitry.
Love it. Thank you, Mike.